Libra, what if I told you something happened behind your back? Something spiritual, something dangerous. What if I told you your photo was never just a photo? Not to them, not to the one who took it or held on to it, because in their hands, it became more than a memory. It became a weapon. Yes, Libra, they gave your photo to the devil, not in a storybook kind of way, not in a way meant to scare you, but in a way that opened a real door in the unseen realm. They didn't need to touch your body. All they needed was your face, frozen in that image, and your name, whispered in a room where no light could enter. They offered it up, not in love, not in peace, but in darkness. They laid your image down before spiritual forces that do not serve God, and spoke your name in a language meant to tie your life up, to slow you down, to drain your blessings, to cloud your path. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly understand, was that your name was already claimed. Heaven had already written it, not in ink, but in fire. You see, the moment they tried to offer you, the skies trembled. Right before your energy could be pulled, right before your essence could be locked in something evil, Heaven interrupted the sacrifice. Not softly, not politely, but with power. The angels didn't ask permission. They didn't send a warning. They crashed the ritual. And that altar? It could no longer hold your name, because your destiny is not for sale. Your soul is not available for destruction. Your life is not theirs to take. So Libra, if you feel like something tried to hold you, if you've ever felt like there was a weight around your blessings, like something strange was blocking your joy, but somehow you still woke up, you still had peace, you still found a way through, then type in the comments, "Heaven blocked it." Because that's what happened. You may not remember the dream, you may not have seen the hands, but spiritually, a rescue took place. And tonight, you'll finally understand why you were never meant to fall. When a photo becomes a portal, Libra, they didn't need to speak to you. They didn't need to come close. They didn't even need to touch your hand or hear your voice. All they needed was your image, a photo. To you, it was just a picture. Maybe one you posted online. Maybe one you gave in trust, or maybe someone took it without you even knowing. You smiled in it, full of life, maybe calm, maybe glowing. But to them, to someone standing in a room with bad intentions, that photo became a door they tried to walk through, not to bless you, but to bind you. Because in the spirit world, Libra, a photo is not just a printed face. It holds your energy, your vibration, your presence. And when handled with dark thoughts, it can become a spiritual access point. They held it in shadows, in silence, not with love, but with hidden motives. They whispered words, not prayers, but poisons. They didn't call on God. They called on forces that move in secret, forces that watch light and envy it. When they gave your photo to the devil, they weren't just being wicked, they were making a transaction. They were offering your identity, your glow, your voice, your divine timeline, to a realm that only deals in control, confusion, and loss. And that's why, for some of you, things suddenly shifted. You started waking up tired, even after hours of sleep. You kept having dreams that left you anxious. Good things began slipping through your fingers. People started turning cold for no reason. Doors that were open began to close. You thought it was just life. But no. In the invisible realm, something had changed. Because your face was placed on an altar. Not one built with love, but one lit by spiritual fire you were never meant to feel. You didn't see it, but your energy was being watched, and your name was being spoken by someone who didn't care if you lived, healed, or succeeded. That picture, that simple photo, became a portal, a doorway they used to try and interrupt what heaven had already begun in your life. But Libra, what they didn't realize is that your soul doesn't belong to darkness. Your spirit is not available for their rituals. And the photo they used, it didn't carry your permission. The ritual was real, but so was the rescue. Libra, what they did wasn't just a thought. It wasn't just anger in their heart. It was real. They acted. They moved with intention. And their intention was to hand your image over, not to protect you, but to harm you. This is why, out of nowhere, your life started to shift in ways that made no sense. You felt like you were walking through a storm, but no one else could see it. It had no name, no warning, just wind, just weight, just waves hitting you emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. You felt like something was pushing against you. Delays, sudden sadness, doors shutting, people acting strange, moments where it felt like your light was flickering inside. But listen closely, Libra. Even though they set something in motion, even though they thought the ritual would succeed, even though they believed your photo was enough, heaven showed up. Heaven didn't knock. Heaven didn't ask for permission. It entered the space. Right when they lit the candle, right when the words were about to be spoken, right when your photo was about to be burned or buried, right when your name was hanging in the air, something divine broke through. There was a shift in the atmosphere they couldn't control. Candles flickered, a chill entered the room, objects fell, something cracked, and in the spirit, the ritual was interrupted. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't imagination. That was rescue. You may not have seen it, but your soul felt it. That's why a few days later, you suddenly felt lighter. That tightness in your chest began to fade. The confusion started to lift. You could breathe again. Sleep returned. Peace touched your skin like a soft wind. Some of you even had a dream. A light came to you. A voice said, "You're safe now." Or someone reached for your hand and pulled you out of something dark. You didn't make that up. That was your rescue manifesting in the physical. Because Libra, what they tried to do could not stand against the hand of the one who made you. What they tried to trap was already covered in spiritual fire. What they tried to bind was already marked with divine freedom. They tried to silence your soul with shadows, but heaven made sure that your light was relit. This wasn't just luck. It wasn't just a shift in mood. It was the moment where the spiritual battle was interrupted by a divine force, and that force was fighting for you. Why they chose you. Libra, let's be honest about something that you've probably known deep down your whole life. You've never been ordinary. Even in your quietest moments, your presence spoke louder than your words. There's something about you that makes people stop, look, and feel. You've always carried a kind of energy that makes others uncomfortable, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your spirit reminds them of something they lost in themselves. Even when you didn't feel confident, even when you were unsure of your path, you still glowed. You still walked with a softness that felt like safety, and people either loved you for it or tried to break it. They saw your light long before you did. They noticed how favor seemed to follow you, even in your struggles. Even when you were down, there was still a shine, and instead of celebrating that, they became jealous. They became bitter. So when they got their hands on your photo, when they felt your energy slipping through their control, they didn't choose prayer. They didn't choose healing. They chose spiritual sabotage, because they couldn't wear what you wear. They couldn't walk like you walk. They couldn't understand how you still smiled, even after pain. Your silence scared them. Your calmness made them question themselves. Your softness wasn't weakness, it was divine armor. And the more they couldn't copy your light, the more they wanted to shut it off. That's why they went spiritual. Because the physical didn't work. Talking behind your back didn't break you. Lying about you didn't destroy you. So they went deeper, thinking maybe, just maybe, they could stop your destiny from blooming by touching it in the spirit. But they made one mistake. They underestimated who you are in the unseen. They saw the outer you, but they forgot you were covered by something ancient. They didn't understand that your energy wasn't random. It wasn't luck. It wasn't charm. It was chosen. And chosen people can't be stolen. Their glow cannot be dimmed. Their destiny cannot be erased, even with rituals, even with curses, even with shadows. This is why, Libra, you often find yourself at the center of both adoration and opposition, because light like yours forces shadows to reveal themselves. You don't have to speak. Your presence does the talking. You don't have to fight. Your energy already exposes everything fake. So when they chose you, when they targeted your photo, when they tried to steal what they couldn't touch, they weren't just choosing a person. They were choosing to fight a light that doesn't go out. And that, Libra, is a battle they can never win. The power of a broken ritual. Libra, here's something most people don't know. When someone tries to harm you in the spirit, through rituals, dark prayers, or offerings, and heaven steps in and breaks it, that energy doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just vanish quietly into the air. It turns around, it goes back, it returns to the sender. Because spiritual energy, good or bad, always moves. And when it's blocked from reaching its target, it must go somewhere. And where does it go? Back to the one who sent it. That's why, Libra, after heaven interrupted that ritual, after your photo was removed from that altar of darkness, the energy began to shift, but not toward you, toward them. Somewhere, the one who planned it started to feel pressure they couldn't explain. Their sleep was disturbed. They kept waking up at odd hours. Things they were building began to fall apart. The people around them started leaving. Their circle began to shrink, because the spiritual realm started to answer back. They thought they could hide their intentions. They thought you would never know. They assumed there would be no consequences. But they forgot one powerful truth. You were marked as untouchable before they even thought of your name. Your soul, your energy, your destiny was already sealed in light. They didn't see the spiritual contracts that protect you. They didn't know that your name is written in divine ink, unremovable, unchangeable, unshakable. They thought they could rewrite your story with a ritual. But the author of your life has final say. That's why what they sent failed. Not just failed, backfired. Because when you send darkness towards someone who walks in light, you don't just fail, you activate divine justice. This is why now, without lifting a finger, you're starting to see balance return. Peace is returning to your space. Clarity is returning to your mind. Things that were stuck are slowly starting to move again. It's not just healing, it's proof that the ritual was broken. And now, you are walking in a space of spiritual authority. Not only are you protected, but the ones who tried to silence you are now the ones silenced by their own doing. This is the power of a broken ritual. It becomes a lesson, not for you, but for them. Because next time they think of touching your light, they'll remember the burn they got the last time they tried. How you felt it but didn't know, Libra. There were moments when you paused and asked yourself quietly, why do I feel this way? You weren't sad, but something felt heavy. You weren't sick, but your energy dropped suddenly, like the light inside you had been dimmed for no reason. You looked around at your life and nothing made sense. Things that were supposed to move slowed down. People who once supported you pulled away. Opportunities that felt so close vanished without warning. And in your dreams, you saw strange places, faces you didn't recognize, rooms that felt off, eyes staring back at you, unblinking, cold, unfamiliar. You woke up sweating, heart racing, shaking, but you didn't know why. Libra, that wasn't just your imagination, that wasn't just anxiety. That was the spiritual echo of something that tried to reach you, a ritual that tried to claim your light, but couldn't. You were feeling the vibrations of something moving in the spirit. You were sensing a battle happening in the unseen, and your soul was sounding the alarm. But here's the part that matters most. You're still here. You're still breathing, still walking, still standing. Why? Because something greater than that darkness stepped in. Something stronger. Something divine. There was, and still is, a spiritual firewall around you. An invisible protection you didn't even know you had. Some of you, you saw the rescue. You had a dream. A bright light walked into the room. A hand pulled you back. You were falling, and something caught you. Or maybe a stranger appeared and whispered, "You're safe now." They can't reach you anymore. And even if you didn't understand it then, your spirit knew. Those moments were not random. They were not fantasy. They were not meaningless. They were alerts from the divine. They were messages that said, "You were almost gone, but we pulled you back." And that's why you're watching this now, because the story isn't over. Because you were meant to be reminded that heaven doesn't sleep when you're in danger. You might not have seen the altar, you might not have heard the chant, you might not have felt the fire rise in that room, but your soul felt the heat, and your spirit cried out, and the divine answered, without delay. That sudden moment of peace you had, that random sigh of relief you couldn't explain, That deep breath after days of struggle, that was your proof. You didn't know what it was, but now you do. It was the moment the ritual broke, the moment heaven said enough. The sacred shield over your life, Libra. There is something inside of you that cannot be touched. No matter how many times you've been hurt, no matter how many people have tried to dim your light, no matter how many forces have come against your peace, there's a part of you that remains untouched. It's not just strength, it's not just survival. It's something higher. It's a shield, a divine layer of glass, invisible to human eyes but impossible for darkness to pass through. You've been covered, even when you didn't feel safe. You've been held, even when you thought you were falling. You've been watched over, even when you thought no one cared. Libra, this shield was placed over your life on purpose. Because this isn't just about protecting you from harm, it's about protecting what you're meant to do. Your purpose isn't finished. Your voice still has something powerful to release. Your heart still has a love the world needs to feel. Your presence still has light that others need to see. That's why heaven stepped in. Not just to save you, but to secure your mission. You were not saved just to survive. You were saved because something in you is still unreleased. Something sacred, something spiritual, something that only you carry. The ritual was interrupted because your timeline is still active, because your name still has meaning, because your steps are still leading to something divinely important. Libra, heaven does not move for no reason. When they stop a sacrifice, when they block a curse, when they surround your life with protection you didn't even ask for, it means your life is too important to lose. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not weak. You are guarded. You are covered. You are called. From this day forward, walk like someone who was saved from a battle no one else even saw. Stand like someone who made it through a war others didn't know you were fighting. Live like someone whose name is known, not just on earth, but in heaven too. Because what tried to take you is now terrified of what you're about to become. And deep down, you know it's time. Their curse became your confirmation. Libra, let's flip the story. Let's take a look at what really happened, not just from the pain, but from the purpose behind it. What if the attack, what if the ritual, what if the fact that someone gave your photo to the devil was actually proof of who you really are? Think about it. No one wastes energy on something that doesn't matter. No one makes a sacrifice for a person with no future. No one targets someone who isn't carrying something valuable. And yet, they chose you. They used your image. They spoke your name. They tried to block your path. Libra, you weren't just attacked. You were recognized. Even the darkness knew there was something different about you. Even those who pretend not to notice your glow could see that you were marked for something bigger. They tried to curse you, but what they really did was confirm you. Because only someone with power attracts this kind of spiritual attention. Only someone with a future written in light draws this level of darkness. And the truth is, their curse became your confirmation. The ritual didn't work, the offering didn't land, but the message was sent, just not in the way they intended. They told heaven, this one is too powerful, this one is too bright, we must stop them. And heaven replied, now we rise up to protect them even more. That attack became your awakening. That betrayal became your birth into spiritual authority. That altar became the announcement that you are not to be played with. They gave your photo to the devil, but all they really did was give God a reason to move louder in your life. They thought they were silencing you, but they actually activated your next chapter. Now you're awake. Now you understand. Now you know who you are. And with that knowledge comes peace. Not fear, not panic, but power. You are no longer afraid of the dark. You know it saw you, and now you know why. This is your turning point, Libra. Not because something tried to stop you, but because nothing could. You've come out on the other side of what should have broken you. You are not a victim. You are evidence of divine protection. You are proof of a higher calling. This isn't a story of fear. This is a story of spiritual rank. They saw it. Heaven confirmed it. And now, so do you. Walk in that. You are untouchable now. Libra, you've been walking through life, carrying weight you didn't understand, feeling winds that others couldn't see, facing delays and detours with no clear cause, but now, you know why. You walked through a spiritual fire you couldn't name. And what's more powerful is that you walked through it without even realizing how close you were to the edge. And yet, you didn't just survive, you were rescued, you were seen, you were saved. That photo, the one they used with dark intentions, is no longer theirs to control. Because the moment they tried to turn it into a weapon, heaven stepped in. That image burned, but your name did not. That ritual rose, but your soul was never touched. There are battles, Libra, that you'll never need to fight again, because the divine already fought them for you, silently, powerfully, completely. And now, you are walking with proof in your spirit. Proof that you are protected. Proof that your light is not just seen, it is guarded. If this message stirred something deep inside you, type in the comments. Heaven blocked it. Let your voice join others who know they were saved from something unseen but real. And if you feel a shift in your spirit right now, a peace that wasn't there before, let that be your sign. You're not just watched, you're covered. If this message reached into your soul, if you felt clarity, confirmation, or calm in a way you can't fully explain, subscribe for more spiritual insight like this. Let's continue walking through the unseen, together, with eyes wide open and hearts covered in light. Because Libra, your next chapter is no longer delayed, it's already begun. Heaven made sure of that. And now, you're free. Untouchable, unshaken, unstoppable.